Alright, hello, and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the stock market, expectations for how the week could possibly progress, a little bit of Bitcoin news, and a few charts and positions for you. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, sit back, relax, hit that like button, and let's get into this. You may or may not have noticed yesterday, there were many NYSE listed stocks that were halted for a technical issue at the open. So here it is from CNBC. The New York Stock Exchange says that trading issue has led to dozens of stocks being halted, and that issue has now been resolved. This led to a bunch of these blue chip companies, such as McDonald's, experiencing very unusual price action in the morning first thing. And here it is again from MasterCard, just another example where you can see it appears to have run every single one of these stops before popping right back up to where it started. So interesting way to start yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people would have been upset about this move. And it wasn't just MasterCard and McDonald's, because this issue affected 84 tickers yesterday at the open. So not a good look at all. Since we're talking about equity markets, we'll do the equity markets first. Here are a bunch of fractals for you, okay? Here's the S&P versus the composite, and you can see that here, suggesting we should be open to potential upside. As I scroll through these fractals, you'll see, with the exception of a couple of them, which suggest we were going down, the majority of these overlays suggest that we may well have already seen the low for the stock market. So does that mean the October low will hold? I don't know. Of course, a lot of that is contingent on earnings and the FOMC next week. But the statistics are the statistics, and the average after these signals flashed were gains of almost 9%, 18%, and 26% walking forward 3, 6, and 12 months from the signal date. So this tells us to keep an open mind about better than expected outcomes in the coming months. We have positive breadth divergence here. This is the number of stocks above their 200-day moving average at the top here. You can see making higher highs. Meanwhile, the NYSE composite is making lower highs. So this is indicative of trend exhaustion and imminent trend reversal, also telling us to keep an open mind about better than expected things walking forward. We are exactly 1 week out from the FOMC meeting. We are currently looking at a 98.2% chance of a 25 basis point hike. But of course, the real big important thing that we should be looking out for is language pertaining to a pause in rate hikes. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you will be more than familiar that we nailed the 50 basis point call, we nailed the slowdown, and then we were calling for a 25 basis point hike and a possible pause to unfold. If we were to get this pause, it's likely we will see this melt up complete over a couple of months before the Fed spoils the party and enters a rate cutting cycle, which is usually when the top comes in for the markets. So we're only about a week away from finding out whether we get to tick this one off as well. Of course, we have major earnings coming out for the rest of this week, so it will be most likely that we'll see a lot of chop over the coming week. Likely some games, as always, into FOMC next week, but then I think we stand a good chance of finding out which direction this market is going to go over the coming months. Hopping into Bitcoin, things continue to look encouraging. The miner sell pressure is at the lowest level it has been in a very long time. Miners are not selling down here, they are holding their Bitcoin, and usually this is conducive to price appreciation. The exchange net position change is showing that we have one of the largest reductions of Bitcoin on exchanges in a very long time. This is indicative that people are pulling their Bitcoin off of the exchange and looking to hold on to it for a prolonged period of time. The EU committee has approved the Bank for International Settlements policy to let banks hold 2% of capital in Bitcoin. Remember, the Bank of International Settlement is the central bank boss, the central bank to central banks. And I can't help but wonder, is the timing of this related to the fact that the Democrats are currently pushing to eliminate the debt ceiling, allowing for unlimited borrowing for the government? This house of cards is not too far from coming tumbling down. I am convinced of that. And I think the central banks know this as well. Remember, in March of 2020, the Federal Reserve announces extensive measures to support the economy, and Bitcoin has outperformed every major asset class ever since, as you can see here. And Bitcoin is the best performing asset in the world this year, according to the latest data by Goldman Sachs. So check this out. This is not going to go unnoticed amongst high net worth individuals and institutional investors. Some not so good news coming out of Binance. Binance has admitted it kept collateral tokens that it issues in the same wallets as customer funds. This is a potential red flag right here. This is kind of what we saw with the FTX collapse. We saw FTX using their own FTT token to collateralize loans. So does this implicate Binance may have been doing something similar? Be clear, I'm not calling for a Binance collapse. I'm not saying any of that malpractice has unfolded, but this is a little bit suspect, to say the least. I should probably also point out here, I've done a video on Binance where I had a look at their proof of reserves and all of that. So if you want to go and see how safe they actually are and how safe I concluded they probably were, then you can go and look up the Binance video that I put out a little while ago. Over in El Salvador, we got some good news, okay? They have just paid off $800 million in debt when every major news outlet said they would default on their debt because of their Bitcoin bet. So this is a really good example of how adopting the Bitcoin standard can give a country, a nation, opportunity to have their own self-sovereignty. Remember the cartel-like tricks of the likes of the IMF, where they offer countries and nations an ultimatum. Go bankrupt or accept our loan, which of course they know they cannot pay back. This, of course, keeps these small nations, these small countries, in the pockets of the IMF, just like a mafia or cartel trick, by dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin and allowing for the natural price appreciation of Bitcoin over time. Nations like El Salvador are able to show the world that they can say no to the cartel-like tactics of the likes of the IMF and have a shot at their own self-sovereignty thanks to Bitcoin. So, hopping into some charts, the equity markets kind of looked encouraging yesterday, although I've checked the futures and the futures are quite red. So are we going to get a retest and resumption, or is this going to turn out to be a bull trap that comes down back inside this range and then breaks down and drops into this cycle low that we thought might be coming in the not too distant future? That of course remains to be seen. For now, holding longs until we have some kind of technical breakdown. Here's the Nasdaq. Again, kind of looks constructive. Are we going to get a back test and go, or is this going to turn out to be a bear trap that gets all of the longs, and are we going to resolve to the downside, making the bears happy? Again, I don't really know. For now, all I can do is wait for the charts to tell me what to do. Dow's still in no man's land, so we'll see how this goes. The VIX is up 4%, but unless we can break out of here and go, then I would say there's no stock market crash in sight just yet. If you're a champion, if you are betting on a stock market crash, that's what you want to see, the VIX break out of here. If that was to happen, I'll put a hedge on the VIX just here, since I have a lot of equity exposure. But if we get a rollover and a rejection at this red line, and particularly if we get rejection at this red line and take out this low here, then I would say it is game on for the breakout. The UKX, the FTSE 100, is this a bull flag that's about to resolve to the upside, or is this about to break down from this red upward sloping support line? If that's the case, I'm going to exit this trade for this little bit of profit between here and we'll be about here. Hopefully we can get a bounce. Hopefully we can get one more push up, something like this. That would be perfect. But of course, all I can do is remain long and strong, continue to push until we get a true technical breakdown. Tesla's got earnings today, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. They don't release until after the close, I believe. So probably going to get a whole lot of nothingness ahead of the earnings. And then we'll see what happens in tomorrow's session. The trade idea I called out but said I wasn't going to take because I've already got enough equity exposure. Apple is apparently breaking out, so if you can get some sort of a retest resumption, that would be a nice entry, but I already have loads of equity exposure, so I'm not personally interested in taking this Apple long. But there is an idea for you if you're interested. Gold looks like it's getting weaker and weaker here, so not much more to say. We continue to push this trade, see if we can get to the top of the range. The stop has been moved up to this red line here, so either way, we're walking away with a decent profit on this trade. Silver, I'm liking what I'm seeing from silver. I'm still kind of waiting to see if we can get one of these moves that then breaks out and we can buy that breakout. For now, just playing patient. It looks like managing the risk on a breakdown of this upward sloping purple support line here was the right call. So for now, we remain sidelined, remain patiently waiting for a decent setup, and then we can look to entertain some positions on silver. Still holding the miners, so we'll see how that goes. Same is true of the junior miners. The dollar, is this going to round and then come up? Is it going to do something like this? I think it's been long overdue, but it's just so weak at the moment that we haven't seen anything out of this yet. So I kind of expect it to resolve to the downside since that's what it's been doing. But I am open, I'm more than open, and it is certainly within my expectation to see a decent counter trend bounce at some point. The yield's looking to come off and set new lows, so hopefully that can occur and risk should come on in the stock market. Same is true of the 2-year yield. Bitcoin is holding up quite well. If we flip this into log scale, you can see maybe looking for a retest out of this. I've been saying for a while, we are due a half cycle low on the 29th, so the end of this month. That's when we're due at a half cycle low, so a decent pullback into the 29th before resumption would be perfectly within the realm of expectation, and I would expect Ethereum will probably follow Bitcoin on that move. XRP looking a little weak for my liking, so I'll continue to hold this trade and push this trade, but we spend any more than 3 or 4 days underneath this red line on daily closing basis, and I'll just cut this trade and look to re-enter on another break above 40 cents. So not really impressed with the strength of this so far. MATIC looks like it's turning down, so again, long and strong continue to push. We'll see what happens, and the same is true of Zcash. kind of still net sideways, so not a whole lot going on there. Just quickly flipping into this fractal chart, this weird fractal chart. I wonder if we get a drop into a half cycle low and then we kind of build out of here and go. I wonder if that can hold. I wonder if this is too bullish. We will find out in a couple of weeks' time, I suppose. The Wyckoff spring chart, the Wyckoff accumulation looks really good, to be honest. So perhaps we can continue to chop around here and then break to the upside. That would be absolutely wonderful, wouldn't it? Geo is looking a little weak as well. I thought we would chop around in this box and hoping to break out above the top to add a position. The stop, as I've said a bunch of times, has moved to here. So if we have to pay a stop, we have to pay a stop. That's fine. Either way, we're walking away with some profit. But if this is going to be a super performing stock, it really needs to start curling up and setting new highs ASAP. So that's all I got to say today. It'll be interesting to see what happens with earnings. It'll be interesting to see whether these futures turn into a very bearish look at open or whether these quickly get reversed and we can start to press on up and confirm these breakouts. As always, I have no bias, no emotion. I'm just going to try to let the market tell me what to do. If you found value here today, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you want to continue to get updates for free on all of these trade ideas, modifications, wins, losses, all of that good stuff. In the meantime, look after yourselves. Take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.